Now, there was a far-right march in London last night that saw 2 people arrested for firearm offences. 3 people stabbed. 1 woman is currently fighting for her life. More than a dozen assaults on emergency workers. 18 people were arrested for possession of an offensive weapon. And loads of people were arrested for drug offences. Oh, no, sorry, that wasn't a far-right march. It was Notting Hill Carnival. Now, I want to make something very, very clear, OK? I don't think we should cancel Carnival. You couldn't cancel it even if you wanted to. I also want to say a massive well done to the police for doing their best. But it is time, I think, for left-wing virtue-signalling, diversity-obsessed politicians to stop lying to us about it. Notting Hill Carnival is not the greatest celebration of multiculturalism, diversity and community cohesion. London Mayor Sadiq Khan said, "Great to see the culture and creativity that Carnival brings to our city once again this year." Well, that is interesting, isn't it? Because why do residents and businesses feel the need to barricade their properties up? Entire streets are boarded up. Barriers are put in place. Many residents simply go away for that weekend because they don't feel particularly safe. Every single year, we see things like this, OK? Yeah, there we go. A load of barricades up, everything like that. Every single year, there's knife crime, there's machetes, there's zombie knives. Now, the data is available online, OK? There have been 35 stabbings in the last 3 years. That is before this year's event was thrown into the mix. It cost us quite a lot of money. In 2022, reportedly, the taxpayer paid around 12.5 million quid. Let's look at the available crime data here as of right now, this minute, OK? The police put a statement out on Sunday night saying there'd be 90 arrests, 3 stabbings, 10 assaults of an emergency worker, 18 people done for possession of an offensive weapon, 4 sexual offences and loads of drug offences. A woman was stabbed in front of her young child. She is in a critical condition. Then, as of 7 p.m. today, so shortly before I came to air, the Metropolitan Police said this. They stopped a car en route to Carnival and found someone in possession of a gun. They also arrested someone at the event with a firearm and someone who was wanted for attempted murder. There have been 145 arrests today, 40 for possession of an offensive weapon, not including the guns I just spoke about, 16 assaults of emergency workers, 3 violent assaults with injury. Politicians would not be celebrating any other event where that level of criminality took place. Now, they turn a blind eye to it, in my view, because it's mainly attended by ethnic minorities and they don't want to seem racist. But facts aren't racist. Notting Hill Carnival is 2 things at the same time, OK? It's a nice, fun day out where the majority of people enjoy themselves. It is also a mass crime event. They can't ignore the last bit there. And they can't lie to us and say that they'd let this keep on going ahead year after year if this happened on an annual St George's Day parade, because they wouldn't. All right, let's get the thoughts of my panel this evening, joined by former Labour Minister Bill Rammell. We've got broadcaster and journalist Carol Malone and former Conservative MP Paul Scully. Carol, I'll start with you on this. You know, they would not allow this event to go ahead with that level of criminality. Well, they wouldn't allow any other event to go ahead with that criminality, would they?
There was a former Chief Inspector today, a guy called Mike Neville. He said that if this had been happening on the way to a Millwall match, there would have been mass arrests. In fact, there would be stopped from going to the match. You know, this has really got to be renamed now. It's a stab and crime fest, and this is not a day of fun and jollity. It's become a stab and crime fest. You know, in the last 7 years, you mentioned in the last 3 years, 54 stabbings. In 2023, there were 7,000 officers on the streets again today. The overtime bill for the cops in 23, 5.5 million quid. That's just for overtime. So why are we paying this amount of money to allow all this to happen and to allow? You know, a mother was stabbed in front of her child today, and we're still seeing pictures of people in feathers and running around in fun outfits. It's not funny. And you know, when coppers are getting hurt all the time, people are getting hurt. One cop said today was that the carnival is a great excuse for people to be sexually molested. So you're having all of this going on. It's just disgusting. And yet we have, as you say, Where was Keir Starmer today? He should have been shouting from the rafters, this is appalling. And I'm pretty much betting that the arrests made over the last 3 days will trump the arrests made over the past 3 weeks in Southport.
We'll see. I mean, look, the reality is, if you stopped and searched everyone at Carnival, you would have to arrest tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people, right? So they're not doing that because they haven't got the capacity to. But they could, if they wanted to. Paul, I'll bring you in on this now. You see the likes of Sadiq Khan and people on the left championing this as this is the epitome of multicultural community cohesion Britain. Why is everyone bored of their houses up then?
Well, this is the thing, because, look, it is supposed to be the second biggest street carnival in the world after Rio. But you're absolutely right. It's not a community event when people are boarding up their houses and people are boarding up businesses as well. I was actually there a couple of days ago in the lead-up to it, where just underneath the police HQ, which is hosted by a local school there, and where they have a vantage point over these people. But you have 1 million people on the streets of Notting Hill, which otherwise is just known for Portobello Market. It's known for Instagrammable houses. And, of course, next door, it's proper cheap by Jowl, London. You've got Grenfell Tower, just a few minutes walk away from the epicentre. It's in the wrong place. It's now got to a point when it's so full, it's so crammed, the police can't get to half of these people if they wanted to, even if they had the capability. Move it to Hyde Park, something like that. You could marshal it a lot better, and you probably then don't need to abstract as many police away from the rest of London.
All right. So tomorrow we should have Keir Starmer, should we, Bill, on a plinth somewhere saying, right, OK, what I want now, we've seen at least 35 attacks on emergency workers. This is deplorable. This cannot stand, this level of criminality, and we're going to open up more prison cells for these people. Are we going to get that?
Well, look, the reality is the vast majority of people who take part in the carnival, the Notting Hill Carnival, are peaceful, and it's a celebration of multicultural Britain. Also, let's get the scale into context. It's actually 2 million people over the weekend. You have that number of people involved, you were bound to have some crimes. But put it into context. If you look at the annual crime figures for Notting Hill, it's 121 per 1,000 population. And that includes the festival. Now, that's in the average for local authority areas in England and Wales.
Should Keir Starmer say something about the people who attacked emergency workers today? Should they be fast-tracked through the courts and be given extra long sentences?
Of course they should.
So if he doesn't say that, what's that show to you?
Well, let's wait and see tomorrow.
He won't mention it.
But of course they should be condemned. Any criminality should be condemned. And look, you know, the premise for this discussion is two-tier policing. The police, rightly, have acted very forcefully.
It's actually two-tier politicians.
Yes.
That's the premise of it.
Because, I mean,
because
it's left-wing politicians ignoring all of this.
Where's the family day?
You're rationalising, Bill, what's happening. You're doing exactly what Keir Starmer will do tomorrow. You'll talk about the cultural, the creativity, all the rest of it. What he will not talk about is the criminality. And all the crimes that are recorded out there, that's not the amount of crimes that have happened. There'll be many, many more crimes. I mean, it just won't be recorded.
I agree. I agree the vast majority of people are just enjoying themselves celebrating, but there is such a level of criminality here that if you just gloss over it, you never tackle the problem. Yesterday was supposed to be Family Day. It was called Family Day, where 3 people stabbed, 38 knives coming across coming out of people from stop and search.
In the back of a car.
And a gun, exactly.
But look, I'm not glossing over it. You know, if you have 2 million people together, you're going to have some level.
Why you need better control? Move it. Or move it to a space where you can actually
I think there's an arguable case for moving it.
But last year, when actually, because there was a mayoral election early on in the year, when this was raised at that point, it was just seen as racist to talk about it and move it.
You've mentioned that this is what it's all about, isn't it? You know, is it two-tier policing? Is it not just two?
It's two-tier debating. It's two-tier debating.
I think the police.
Is it racist policing?
Can I just say on this, guy? We'll come back to you on this, but I actually just want to. I've given the police a fair bit of grief in recent weeks, and I think with good reason, actually. But with this, I do think they've done a pretty good job because they're placed in an absolutely impossible situation given the numbers. My main point with this is that we are being gaslit by our politicians again and again and again.
That's what I mean about two-tier debating, because actually if you just gloss over this, you never deal with prejudice, you never deal with the underlying causes of the criminality that we're talking about, the gang culture that's around there.
What if this was a St George's Day parade?
Well, we know for a fact what will be happening. There'd be 3 times as many people lifted that have the riot police in there. You know, this police chief that I mentioned before, he said officers at the Notting Hill Carnival are reluctant to make arrests. We know why. Because it's a carnival to celebrate black culture, and they're frightened to look as if they're racist. And this is the problem with the Met Police. They're always frightened that they're going to look racist. It's a problem with police forces all over the country. They don't want to offend certain communities.
Let me deal directly with what you're saying, Patrick. If there were 2 million people involved in a St George's Day celebration and you had this level of crime, I wouldn't call for it to be banned, and I don't think the government would call for it to be banned.
In the break there, I actually watched some footage on Twitter from someone's Ring doorbell of people queuing up to urinate on their front step.
Yeah.
So that's not... No one's getting arrested for that. That won't appear in the crime figures, you know. But if you walk home to... I mean, I've got friends here in this office who live in that area, right? They're going to walk home tonight, and in order to get into their front door, they're going to have to wade through people.
The clean-up will take most of this week.
Totally unacceptable. But if you have 2 million people in a confined space like that, you're going to have, from an extreme minority...
Hence move it, and then you don't need to spend 11 million quid on policing, which, by the way, also takes the police from other parts of London as well.
I think another point is money is made out of this festival. I think some of that should be reinvested.
That's absolutely right. It's commercial for a lot of people. It's no longer community.
Why are they bringing knives and guns and smoking drugs openly in front of couples? So you can't just put it down to say it's a fun day out, not when that is happening.
Not least when the local community are, and it's not a community event because the local community are no longer there. They've all shipped out.
Can you imagine the black people who live in Notting Hill? I think they'd be as disgusted as everyone else as what's happening to their properties, what they're seeing in front of them. And you can't have coppers turning a blind eye because of the kind of carnival that it is.
But the coppers aren't doing that. You know, they introduced Section 60 notices yesterday, so there's universal stop and search. They've said that anyone with a face mask, they can ask for it to be removed, and if they don't remove it, they're arrested.
Look, I'll kind of finish how I started on this. You know, if I'd have been introducing something here where if we'd have had a rap sheet like what the Met Police put out there tonight and last night, and there was that level of criminality, we would be getting a national address from our Prime Minister tomorrow, fast-tracking people through the courts, everything. Ain't going to happen. Ain't going to happen. And I think that's just... And I'm not... By the way, I'll just say, I'm not actually calling for it to happen. I'm just pointing out the fact that it's not, and that is a bit hypocritical, in my view. But anyway, there we go. Metropolitan Police Deputy Assistant Commissioner Ade Adelakan said, "We are tired of saying the same words every year. We are tired of telling families their loved ones are seriously injured or worse. We're tired of seeing crime scenes at carnival." So there we go. Coming up...